Airline fares jumped 20.7% in 1 year. But the bigger problem is that cheap travel is not just getting pricier, it is being rebuilt for people who can absorb the hit. That same harmless long weekend that used to feel like a quick reset can now punch straight through your monthly cash flow before you even book the hotel. The vacation did not just get a little more expensive, the budget travel machine is tilting toward people who can tolerate more fees and shrug off a final bill that forces everyone else to choose between a break and an emergency fund. You can see it in the most ordinary planning moment. After a brutal week, you just want 3 nights somewhere warm, a basic flight, a basic hotel, and enough money left over to eat something not wrapped in airport plastic. Then the numbers start appearing. A $248 round-trip flight in a $169 hotel room can look like a manageable $755 weekend on the first screen. By checkout, bags, seat selection, hotel taxes, parking, airport food, ride shares, and 2 normal dinners can push the real cost closer to $1,350 or $1,500. The trip did not change. The accounting finally told the truth. That is the new vacation math. The posted price is not the price. The advertised deal is not the cost. And the thing that used to feel like a small reward for surviving modern life is starting to feel like another bill collector wearing sunglasses. According to April 2026 travel inflation data, airline fares were up 20.7% from the year before. Hotels were up 4.3%, lodging prices are up 27% over the last decade, and gasoline rose 28.4% from April 2025 to April 2026. Parking, tolls, full-service meals, and limited-service meals rose too. This matters because travel used to be one of the few budget categories where middle-class people could still feel clever. Maybe buying a house felt impossible, maybe student loans made adulthood feel like a subscription service, but vacation planning still had knobs you could turn. Move the dates, pick the less famous city, split a room, drive instead of fly, pack snacks like a raccoon with a spreadsheet. For a while, the budget still seemed to listen. Now that control is getting weaker. The first reason is simple. The budget seat was never just a seat. It was a price anchor. Low-cost airlines did not only sell cramped seats with folding chair comfort, they forced everyone else to keep one eye on the cheap end of the market. When a budget carrier sells a route for $89, the major airline on that same route cannot always pretend its $420 economy ticket is a sacred luxury artifact. Competition at the bottom pulls prices down in the middle. Think about the family group chat version. Someone finds cheap flights, everyone gets excited, and then the cheap seat only stays cheap if nobody brings a bag, chooses a seat, or needs a civilized arrival time. The trip is technically possible, but every normal preference costs extra. That is what happens when ultra-low-cost capacity gets weaker. The big carriers do not need to plot against your vacation fund. They simply do not have to discount as aggressively. Their cheapest competitor is weaker, the supply of cheap seats is tighter, and the average traveler has fewer ways to say, "No thanks, I found something cheaper." Airlines have also learned that the rich seat pays more per inch. A plane is real estate with wings. If an airline can earn more from premium economy, extra legroom, early boarding, or bundled fares, the business logic is obvious. Why fight for 10 budget travelers if 4 higher-paying travelers produce better revenue with fewer complaints and more credit card points involved? That is where the middle-class traveler gets squeezed. Your old $249 deal is not always hidden. Sometimes the airline simply does not want to manufacture as many of those deals anymore. More premium offerings, fare classes, seat games, and bundles separate the traveler willing to pay from the traveler just trying to get there. Flights are only the first hit. The second hit arrives when you land and need somewhere to sleep. For years, short-term rentals promised a cheaper alternative to hotels. Stay in somebody's extra room, spare apartment, or weird guest house where the shower has 3 knobs and one of them feels legally questionable. It was not always glamorous, but it gave budget travelers another option. Then the market professionalized. Spare rooms became mini hotels, hosts became operators, Operators became portfolios. Cleaning fees became a spiritual test. Cities cracked down because turning housing into tourist inventory was making local rent problems worse. Platforms pushed quality listings. Low-quality listings disappeared. Slowly, the cheap, messy middle thinned out. The budget traveler now has fewer doors to open. Years ago, you might compare a hostel, a cheap motel, an Airbnb room, a budget hotel, and a friend's couch if you were truly committed to humility. Now, more options lead to the same professionalized price ladder. Different logo, same bill. That matters because lodging prices are up 27% over 10 years. Your income might not feel 27% more relaxed. Your vacation budget might not have grown 27%, but the room you sleep in has been quietly repriced anyway. And when cheap lodging gets scarce, entire cities change who they're built for. Budget travelers use local transit and spread small amounts across local businesses. Premium hotel guests pull restaurants, tours, and neighborhoods up the price ladder. Nobody has to hate budget travelers. The market just follows the money. Then comes the third force, the fee stack. This is the part that makes modern travel feel dishonest. The headline price is only the opening bid. Flights add baggage fees, seat selection, priority boarding, and change fees. Hotels add common charges like resort fees, parking fees, destination fees, taxes, service charges, and mandatory amenity fees for things you may not use. Then the city adds its own toll booth. Parking and tolls, transit passes, rideshare surges, museum fees, restaurant tips, airport food, bottled water that costs more than a small appliance. None of these line items looks insane alone. That is what makes them dangerous. It is death by $37 charges. One $37 fee is annoying. 5 of them is a grocery run. 10 of them is a credit card balance you did not plan for. You think the trip costs $900 because that's what the flight and hotel said on the first screen. Then the final cost is $1,480, and everyone involved acts like that was obvious. This is where travel starts behaving like a subscription box for financial regret. And the weird thing is, the travel industry can be doing great while you're doing worse. U.S. travel spending is forecast to reach roughly $1.37 trillion in 2026. Domestic leisure travel alone is projected around $909 billion. Those numbers sound healthy. They are healthy for the industry, but they are industry totals, not a household affordability report. A bigger travel market can be built from higher prices, higher income travelers, and premium spending, while the average family feels more squeezed. The market can grow because people with rising portfolios, high incomes, home equity, premium rewards cards, and flexible jobs keep spending. They do not cancel the trip because the hotel is up 12%. They upgrade the room, complain briefly, and call it self-care. Meanwhile, a middle-class family paying from wages has to make trade-offs. A $300 surprise is annoying if your investment account moved up $8,000 this month. It is a crisis if your checking account has $412 until payday. So travel spending can rise nationally while affordability falls personally. The airplane can be full, the hotel can be booked, the airport can be packed, and you can still be priced out. The economy is sorting customers by pain tolerance. The most dangerous part is what happens when people refuse to admit they have been sorted. Wanting a vacation is normal. Wanting a break is normal. Wanting to see your family, take your kids somewhere, attend a wedding, or feel human for 4 days is not irresponsible. But financing a break at double-digit interest is where the trip follows you home. The vacation lasts 4 days. The balance can last 8 months. You come back with photos, a sunburn, and a minimum payment that quietly steals money from every future paycheck. And because travel is emotional, people are very good at justifying it. We deserve this. You probably do. We haven't taken a trip in years. That might be true. We can pay it off later. That is where the math starts sharpening a knife. If the only way to take the trip is to carry the flight on a credit card, delay retirement contributions, empty the emergency fund, use a personal loan, or count on a future tax refund to clean everything up, the trip is not a vacation anymore. It is a transfer of future freedom into present relief. That trade can be worth it in rare cases, emergency family travel, a once-in-a-lifetime event, something that genuinely matters. But a random weekend escape should not become a 6-month debt instrument because an airline showed you a sunset photo and a countdown timer. So what do? Never travel again? Stay home forever and watch airport walking tours on YouTube like a Victorian child staring through a bakery window? No, the answer is not to give up travel. The answer is to stop using old travel math in a new travel economy. The old travel math was simple. Find a cheap flight, find a cheap room. Figure out the rest later. That worked when the rest was small. It does not work when the rest has become the business model. The new travel math starts with the true trip cost. Before you book anything, make one list: airfare, lodging, baggage, seat fees, airport parking, local transportation, rental car, gas, tolls, hotel taxes, resort fees, food, activities, travel insurance, pet sitting, extra childcare. Then add a 15% surprise buffer because travel has become very creative at discovering your wallet. That number is the trip, not the flight, not the hotel, the total number. Then split that number into 3 buckets. Fixed costs you cannot dodge, like airfare and lodging. Avoidable costs you can negotiate, like checked bags, parking, and tourist zone meals. And emotional costs you're tempted to justify, like a room upgrade, a last-minute rental car, or the extra day you added because leaving on Sunday felt depressing. That third bucket is where budgets quietly bleed out. Second, create a vacation sinking fund, not a vague we-will-figure-it-out fund, a real account, a separate bucket. If the trip costs $2,400 and you want to go in 8 months, that's $300 per month. If $300 per month is impossible, the trip is not affordable on that timeline. Calendar does not care about your vibes. And do not count money twice. If that $300 is coming from the emergency fund, it is not a vacation fund. If it's coming from the credit card payment you were supposed to make, it is not a vacation fund. If it only works because you assume next month will magically be cheaper, congratulations, you have invented financial fan fiction. Third, become loyal to your budget, not to a destination. Most people pick the destination first, fall in love with the idea, then force their finances to obey. Flip it. Decide the dollar ceiling first, then let destinations compete for your money. If your all-in budget is $1,200, the question is not, how do I make Miami fit? The question is, which trip gives me the best experience inside $1,200 without debt? Maybe that's a smaller city. Maybe it's a shoulder season trip. Maybe it's driving instead of flying. Maybe it's 3 nights instead of 5. Fourth, travel when the pricing engine is weak. Midweek flights, shoulder seasons, alternate airports, flexible dates, hotels outside the obvious tourist zone. Modern travel pricing punishes people who are rigid. Fifth, use points, not permission. Points are useful when they reduce the cash you actually spend. They become dangerous when they convince you to upgrade into a trip you would never buy with real dollars. A credit card portal showing you a deal on a luxury hotel is not saving you money if the cheaper hotel would have done the job. Finally, give every trip a return home test. Before you book, ask one question: will this trip still feel good 30 days after I get home? If the answer is yes because it was planned, funded, and paid for, book it, enjoy it, take the break. You are allowed to be a person, not just a retirement calculator with anxiety. But if the answer is no because you will be dodging the credit card balance, skipping savings, and pretending the minimum payment is basically handled, then the trip is not giving you freedom. It is renting you a feeling and charging interest after checkout. The takeaway is simple. Cheap travel is not dead, but effortless cheap travel is dying for people who do not price the full system. The industry makes the first number look friendly and the final number inevitable. That means your defense is not panic. It is seeing the whole bill first. So tonight, pick one trip you actually want to take. Calculate the real all-in cost. Divide it by the months until you want to go. Your next step is deciding whether that monthly number belongs in your life. If it does, build the fund and go without guilt. If it does not, you can change the destination, change the date, shorten the trip, or let the fantasy sit for a while. The point is not to stop traveling. The point is to come home lighter, not with a tan and a financial hangover that follows you longer than the trip itself.